welcome back to a new video. So today's video is about toxicity in Lolita fashion community, basically. I feel like I've lately really wondered or like thought about different kinds of problems that the community has. Like I talked about the loneliness in Lolita fashion a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm like, oh, maybe toxicity would be interesting to talk about. And yes, I decided that I will want to kind of like discuss this one too. Of course, every community has some toxicity in it. It's just normal whenever like a lot of people are put together into a community. They're like, no community is free of problems. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, toxicity is present in everywhere we go, but it's just about finding people that really appreciate you and are not mean to you or to other peoples in the community. That is something that hopefully every community is striving for. So what is toxicity, especially like how does it embody in Lolita fashion community? So that's how, or like that's what I've been trying to kind of like put together, and I came up with three terms that we use in the fashion, and those are elitism, itas, and brand whore. I feel like the meaning of the words have changed quite a lot throughout the years. Whenever I started Lolita fashion like 10 years ago, it was a time that you absolutely did not want to belong into any of these categories. And if you did, it was like end of the world, pretty much. I feel like throughout the years they have kind of picked up some like humorous or like positive connotations too, especially brand whore and itas. Those are elitism. I think is still like in the bad list of bad words or like bad categories, kind of. I feel like both itas and brand whore are something that started out as bad, but nowadays they are not considered that bad, especially if you are referring to yourself. Like I, as a, you know, I almost said senior Lolita, but like, you know, somebody who has done Lolita fashion for many years, I do remember my itas phase, kind of like when I was starting out and I didn't really understand the fashion, or I was still learning, and like that is like very normal part of the whole process of becoming a Lolita and everything, that you just need to learn how it works and find your own personal style. But yeah, like I do personally, whenever I refer to my itas phase, I don't mean it in a bad way. I don't mean it in a like, I don't know, discriminatory way of like speaking of myself. It's just like like I used to be so bad, haha, that's funny. And that's okay, because I'm referring to myself. But whenever somebody is referring to somebody else as an itas, I think that's kind of where the kind of like line goes when it becomes toxic or mean. I found like a couple of videos, like some content creators and people referring like itas as a kind of like general term for like, you know, like videos like how to not to be itas or like something like that. And those videos, while they might seem kind of like harmless or kind of like instructional or like, you know, providing instructions and like ideas, it does, in my opinion, this is like my personal opinion about the whole use of the word, but I feel like that is unnecessary kind of what is the word? Like I feel like it unnecessarily brings up fear in other people of like of being ita or accidentally doing something wrong, and that is kind of something like I feel like there is a lot of pressure for beginning Lolitas to kind of like get everything right. And then these kind of videos that are like how to not be ita is like is a bit harmful in a way, because it kind of suggests the idea that if you do something wrong you will be ita, or you will get this label, you know, and you don't want to get that label when you're starting out. So in that way I feel like, generally speaking of itas or like itaness I don't know if that's a word, but but like being ita is a bit harmful, unfortunately, and that's why I personally don't want to use it even as a kind of like general term. Like the general use of the word ita kind of creates a needless fear of like breaking the rules of Lolita fashion, like the rules. I've been talking about the rules of Lolita fashion, like I'll put the little video thing here. But it also creates kind of like labeling and othering in the community. So basically it just creates this kind of, it puts people in the categories and it kind of like separates people from one another. And that's why I don't really like using the word. And I think this also kind of has led into the fear of constructive criticism. I feel like overall people kind of like tend to avoid like criticism or opinions about oneself. But I feel like the Lolita community in its kind of like in total is not very safe place to be in, and that's why people in my opinion kind of like avoid getting constructive criticism, even though they would kind of like want to, but they're afraid of asking for, or like they're afraid of getting mean constructive criticism or like just plain criticism. So yeah, I think like overall, like why criticism and constructive criticism are like two separate things is because of the like constructiveness that is supposed to be like kind and like, you know, soft and like something that is in place kinda. But then I feel like people just kinda become too afraid of being ita or like breaking the rules that much that they just like completely just don't want to get constructive criticism. And that is completely fine. Like I'm not saying that you should always be open for constructive criticism, that's not my point, but my point is that due to the fear of being ita or being labeled something or like being othered in the community is so great that people just don't want to like hear constructive criticism to get better, so that they will just want to kind of like figure it out on themselves, and that is totally fine. But I'm just saying that like the toxicity in the community is not helping. And the other term that I mentioned was brand whore. I feel like brand whore isn't as hurtful as ita is. It did kind of start as a bad word, maybe. I'm not sure about the origin of the word. I feel like it probably was meant to be kind of like othering in the other direction, kind of like people who have a lot of brand, or like who don't want to like wear anything like not brand, kind of or some people who would be mean to somebody who have handmade stuff or something like that. But brand whore in itself is not I don't feel like it's a bad thing to be. It's just something that you just prefer brand over other things. And I guess like even myself, I do consider myself a brand whore, I guess, or like in some sense I am a brand whore because I do have a lot of angelic pretty or like angelic or like brand stuff in my wardrobe, but I am not like only brand whore because I do have a lot of handmade stuff, and I am a multifaceted person, you know. I have a lot of different kinds of aspects to myself, and that is how other people are too. That it's just, I am a brand whore, but I am also appreciative of handmade stuff, and yeah. but yeah, like I feel like brand whore is something that is okay again to kind of like refer to oneself. So me saying that I'm a brand whore, that's okay. But if somebody else says that you're a brand whore, then that might be a bit insulting. So I would be very careful with the term, how to use it. But I don't think it's as insulting as being an ita would be, or like somebody saying that like you're an ita would be. Being a brand whore does not mean that one is an elitist also, so they don't kind of correlate, meaning that brand whores are or like can be really nice people. They don't have to be elitist or mean girls or anything like that. But I would say that the degree of elitism in a brand dictates how mean they are in a way. So people are multifaceted, as I mentioned, so it's like being a brand whore or even an elitist is not necessarily a bad thing, but there are very like there is a fine line that defines a toxic person and a like okay or nice person. Talking about elitism, elitism is probably, as I mentioned, like one of the like the word out of the three words that I've been like talking about. Elitism is probably still like the only one that doesn't really have a positive connotation to it, but I do think that elitism in itself is not necessarily bad thing. I think elitist people are just like conservative people who appreciate the Lolita fashion rules and the kind of like, you know, how things used to be, and that is totally valid. I'm not saying that like elitism would be bad, but yeah, I feel like elitism on like the like how kind person is or like a Lolita is very much of a spectrum. It's similar to like politics, that there is like right wing and left wing, and like not like one politic is not like completely left wing or like right wing, or but they kind of like settle somewhere in the spectrum. So that is kind of how I perceive elitism to be. So that of course there can be like extremely like conservative elitist who does not like, it's not okay with like any experimentation or whatever, but still I feel like being an elitist is not inherently bad thing to be. But whenever elitism is used as a tool to bully others, then it kind of like goes over the line of like being okay elitist. And I think, like in my opinion, like what defines an elitist is like somebody who considers or like is pro brand and pro rules of Lolita fashion, and they're kind of like the mean girls of Lolita fashion, and they have like certain kind of like standards within the fashion. And I do think that there are people who are wrongfully kind of like classified into the group of, or like into an elitist group kind of, despite not being a bad person, or like they just, I don't know, like seem bad or seem mean, but they don't necessarily deserve the like label of elitist. The toxicity in the fashion kind of goes both ways. So like what I was saying, that like people who are wrongfully kind of like classified into the elitist group are like, if they are not a bad person, they are the victim of toxicity in the community. So basically, like, not always are the elitists kind of I don't know, like actually elitist and like toxic people. So yeah, like I don't want to sound like I'm like defending elitist or anything like that. I feel like elitist people, if they are kind of judgy or like judging others and being like mean people, bullies, then of course like I don't like what am I trying to say? Like I don't like those people. Like I am not like defending those kinds of people at all. I'm just like trying to kind of like point out different kinds of ways that toxicity is present in the community. So it's not always that the like mean seeming people are actually toxic, but the people who are I don't know, like saying or like pointing out toxicity. I hope I'm not gonna get like hate for this video, because like my aim is not to kind of like point out any people or say anything. Like I don't want to insult anybody with my videos or like with the talks that I just want to kind of like reflect on things and just, I don't know, like just open up a conversation. Like I always say, just like opening up a discussion about like respectful discussion about this topic. I don't want people to come at me. I don't want people to come at each other in my comment section. Like if that happens, I'm just gonna like disable the comments or something. I don't know. So yeah, I just feel like that in the end, kind of like the classification of people into these certain groups is quite harmful. If it's like you defining yourself as an ita or like as a brand whore or elitist, it's fine. But like whenever they are used as a tool to bully others, so just like insulting others or and like baselessly just throwing the words around, then it kind of becomes bad, and that is not okay. As a community, we are like, everybody is different and we should respect our differences and try to just like cope with that, and like understanding that there are different kinds of people who come from different kinds of backgrounds. And like of course like you don't have to like everybody. That's like how humanity and like life works. But just, I don't know, just like being respectful for others is the key. I would say, like just being respectful, and like yeah, it's just being kind to each other is important, especially in this world like where everybody or like everything is shit. We do need kindness in the community and respect for each other and respect for the differences too. So yeah, that's my TED talk for today. I hope you enjoyed this video and we will see you next time. Bye!